on the news.
He hears the voices of the people of Ireland crying out, "We need you. We need you to bring us the gospel."
We'll hear more from Bishop Brennan giving the homily at St. Patrick's Cathedral as he celebrates this feast day, his first as leader of the Brooklyn Diocese. Honoring their school's namesake, students from St. Patrick Catholic Academy in Brooklyn raise their voices in celebration. Plus, Pope Francis and Russian Patriarch Kirill, who has spoken out in support of the invasion of Ukraine, talked by video conference. We'll tell you what was said. Then, miraculously, survivors are pulled from a theater-turned-shelter decimated by a Russian airstrike. I'm Christine Persichetti. Currents News starts right now. The St. Patrick's Day Parade is back. Performers, cultural groups, and first responders marched down Fifth Avenue in full force for the first time since the pandemic began. The celebration of the patron saint of Ireland started, as it always does, with Mass at St. Patrick's Cathedral, celebrated this year by Diocese of Brooklyn Bishop Robert Brennan. Currents News' Jessica Easthope has more.
The pipes and drums have a deeper purpose. And what the green symbolizes is rooted in faith. Diocese of Brooklyn Bishop Robert Brennan said everyone celebrating in style on Fifth Avenue has the power to be like St. Patrick.
Parades are really, in the end, a literal expression of what you and I should be doing and are doing every single day, bringing our faith into the streets.
Before he was a saint, he was a slave, working in the fields in Ireland. He eventually escaped, but when the Irish people needed him, he returned as a priest, bringing with him a foundation of faith that became part of his legacy as a great evangelizer.
He learned the language. He took in the culture. He became one of them.
This year's St. Patrick's Day Parade coming almost 2 years to the day since New York City shut down because of the coronavirus. Marching front and center was Mayor Eric Adams, who this week encouraged all Irish-American New Yorkers to honor their heritage loud and proud.
Building the Brooklyn Bridge, our MTA system, law enforcement. You look at the success of New York, you see the Irish contribution to it, and you should be proud to be Irish today.
Though people celebrate and wear green today, there's a lot to be learned from St. Patrick every day. Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
You can watch Bishop Brennan's full homily on our website, currentsny.tv. Among the marchers in this year's parade, the Xaverian High School Band. The group is the official pipe band for the New York City Council, and if you look closely at their uniform, you can see a memorial patch. That's for their former principal and the founder of the pipe band, Thomas Grenham. The Irish Clipper passed 2 years ago. While the band was remembering their fallen principal on Fifth Avenue, Cardinal Timothy Dolan missed this year's parade because of his mother's passing. Still, His Eminence sent a message back to his flock at the Archdiocese of New York, reminding them of the great work of St. Patrick.
Remember, first and foremost, our beloved St. Patrick was a missionary. He was an apostle. He was an evangelist. He brought the one true faith to Ireland, and he converted an island. And through that yeast, through that tiny mustard seed, the examples that Jesus used for his kingdom and the gospel, he brought the faith to the world.
Cardinal Dolan went on to explain that it was the work of the Irish immigrants like his own great-great-grandparents that brought the faith to the United States. Ireland's two leading archbishops say Christians should look at St. Patrick as a model of reconciliation and peace and try to apply that peace to Ukraine. In a joint statement, Catholic Primate of All Ireland, Archbishop Eamon Martin, and Church of Ireland Archbishop John McDowell said, "Tradition tells us that St. Patrick himself, in the face of great danger and peril to his own life, prayed his breastplate prayer, taking comfort in his faith that God does not forsake us and that Christ is present with all who suffer. Christ is always with us, behind us, and before us. We appeal through our prayers this St. Patrick's Day for an end to this pointless massacre and pulverizing of the property, bodies, and spirit of the Ukrainian people. Pope Francis had a video conference with Russian Patriarch Kirill to discuss the war in Ukraine. The Pope told the Orthodox leader there's no such thing as just war, saying wars are unjust because the people of God are the ones who pay. The Pope and Patriarch did agree that different churches should focus on using the language of Jesus, not that of politics. Kirill has spoken out in support of the Russian invasion. As the war in Ukraine enters week 4, the toll on human life is devastating. Russian bombing has been indiscriminate. There's nowhere to hide, forcing so many to flee. Many of the now 3 million refugees are settling in neighboring countries. And as Emily Schmidt tells us, the U.S. is looking at ways to fast-track the process to come here.
On the 22nd day of war in Ukraine, Russia's invasion continues to move into unthinkable territory.
I think that Putin has crossed all the red lines possible.
In Mariupol, warnings came in white lines outside a theater, spelling out in Russian the word children to indicate what Ukrainian officials said were 1,200 women and children sheltered inside. It did not stop an attack. Thursday, survivors began to emerge.
It's really devastating when the Russians kill civilians, and they kill pretty much, well, they spare nobody.
The fighting did not spare what officials say were 21 people killed in Mariupol, a school and an arts club destroyed. It did not spare a man's wife and 2 children killed earlier this month trying to flee.
Yes, I've managed to bury everyone.
He remains resolute.
We will not leave Kiev. We will stay here till the end.
Millions have fled, more than 1.9 million entering Poland in recent weeks. In comparison, since October, about 700 Ukrainian refugees have come to the U.S., according to the State Department. Sources say the Biden administration is looking for ways to help more refugees join families already in the U.S. So many seeking safety anywhere. Coming from a country where President Zelensky says everything now is a target. Emily Schmidt, Currents News.
3 aid workers for a Catholic charity in Ukraine were hurt when their van was hit by Russian artillery fire. They were working for the U.S.-based Vulnerable People Project, delivering food and supplies to Ukrainians trapped by the fighting. They were also planning on evacuating a group of children on their return trip. All 3 men had head wounds. 1 remains hospitalized in critical condition. It's not known if they were the intended target. Miraculously, survivors of that bombing of the Mariupol theater are being pulled from the rubble, but there's no word yet on the number of casualties. Nick Payton-Walsh shows us what it was like inside where civilians were hiding.
The flicker of flame here, where Russia's barbarism peaked, and an airstrike hit a bomb shelter, hiding hundreds beneath a theatre, said local officials. The damage so complete, the entrance was reduced to rubble. This satellite image from 2 days earlier showing the building standing with children written large outside. In case you're still thinking nobody knew who was here, videos had been circulating for days of the hell inside. How over a week of siege and shelling had forced those still living into a space so tight and dark it must have felt like a tomb. Here, he says, is where we give out food to children, women and elderly first. This is the converted cloakroom of the theatre. If this looks like how you imagined the end of the world, for these children, packed in, that may have been the case when the bomb struck. Russia claimed Ukrainian radicals caused the blast. In this room, 15 people, the narrator says. Little comfort any parent can give, bar the lie this would be over soon. And below this store, there are yet more. An entire city forced underground. Little aid allowed in and few allowed out. People hear us. Here are children, he says. His appeal is for food, help. Perhaps unaware, it may have led Russian bombs straight to them. The swimming pool was also hit, a place where this narrator says a pregnant woman was trapped under the rubble and where only expectant mothers and those with under threes hid. The Kremlin wants to break or flatten this port, but its defenders still exact a cost, still keep them out. Nick Payton-Walsh, Odessa, Ukraine.
Helping in humanitarian efforts for Ukraine and its people are two top cardinals. Cardinal Konrad Krajewski visiting a seminary in the Archdiocese of Lviv in western Ukraine. It's there that the Archdiocese, along with the Knights of Columbus and Caritas Ukraine, have worked to provide temporary shelter, food, medicine, clothing, and other supplies to the displaced. The Knights have also created a communication network among the councils to coordinate the delivery of the supplies. The papal almoner, who is in charge of the Holy Father's charitable contributions, thanked the Knights for their efforts. Meantime, Cardinal Michael Czerny is in Slovakia helping Ukrainian refugees. Cardinal Czerny arrived at the country's border with Ukraine on Wednesday, where he had this to say about humanitarian efforts there.
I'm so happy to see how everyone is working together to meet the needs of the people who are fleeing for their lives, and where here they can have their first security and their first rest and take their next steps.
Among some of the stops the Cardinal has already made on his journey, he met with Greek, Catholic, and Latin Rite bishops in the eastern part of Slovakia and has participated in a prayer service for peace in Ukraine. There's a lot more news headed your way. Prayers answered when an abandoned baby is found safe. How the little boy ended up in a field. Plus, the NYPD's new anti-gun unit has made its first arrest just hours after its deployment. And later, a modern-day miracle from the Knox Shrine, the site of a Marian apparition. It was a moment of relief for one Louisiana family after a baby abandoned in a field was discovered alive and healthy. Katie Easter is in Baton Rouge and was speaking to the infant's godmother when she heard the good news.
We were talking to the godmother of 8-month-old Nigel Jackson when EMS rushed behind her. She hoped for someone to find the baby abandoned yesterday evening in a field. Her prayers were answered. An ambulance rushed the toddler to Our Lady of the Lake, where doctors could finally check on his condition. Police, firefighters, and others conducted the frantic search by foot with drones and canines. An eagle-eyed BRPD helicopter pilot spotted the baby around noon. Officials say he was not harmed.
This thing would have dragged on another several hours. It could have been a much different outcome, and we're glad that didn't happen.
How long baby Nigel was in the elements is unknown. Officials say his mother went to get mental help Tuesday evening. Wednesday morning, family reported her baby missing. The mother telling police she left him in a field near Hooper Road.
I expected the baby to be in much worse shape than he was, and I'm glad that it turned out the way it did.
Family members cheered as the ambulance left the scene, and Godmother Angel's prayers were answered.
That was Katie Easter reporting. Officials say Nigel's mother will not face charges over the incident. And following the rescue, the mayor of Baton Rouge encouraged anyone suffering from mental health problems to seek help. If you or a loved one are in need of help, Catholic Charities offers mental health services to anyone in need. Just head online to CatholicCharitiesUSA.org and click Find Help to locate a clinic near you. Well, it didn't take long. The NYPD's newly formed anti-gun unit rolled out Monday, and they've already made their first arrest. Just 2 hours after deployment, officers from Mayor Eric Adams' neighborhood safety teams arrested a 20-year-old reputed gang member in the Bronx and found an illegal gun on the suspect. The unit currently consists of 168 officers who are spread out across 30 precincts throughout the city's high-crime areas. You may have noticed that gas prices are astronomically high, but the pain is not just at the pump. Fuel costs across all industries are starting to take off. And as Pete Montine reports, the price of jet fuel is now causing airfare costs to soar.
Spring break starts at the airport, where people are flying more than ever since the start of the pandemic, and they are already paying more.
Are these friends of yours?
Yeah, this is my friend here.
Dalia Sharp of Michigan was about to treat herself for her birthday next month.
And I was deciding to go to Aruba, and in 2 days it went up $300.
That's a lot.
And I missed the $300 less, so I decided not to go.
Jet fuel has spiked to its highest level in more than 2 years. Delta, United, and JetBlue all say they will pass the cost on to consumers.
If it became unreasonable, I think people would forego traveling. It would just depend on how much it would be and how bad you want to go somewhere.
To conserve costs, airlines like Alaska and Southwest say they will slash some flights from schedules. But airline experts say do not be shocked if carriers get even more creative, charging more for things like Wi-Fi, food, or seat selections.
If you're paying 75% more than you were a year ago to gas up your car, I think you can relate to the plight airlines are facing when they have to pump tens of thousands of gallons of fuel into every one of their planes to transport us.
Experts think carriers could get away with charging more since so many people want to fly. American Airlines says demand for travel is at an all-time high. Now airlines will have to balance ticket prices or push more people towards staycations.
That was Pete Montine reporting. According to federal data, the cost to fill up a Boeing 737 has shot up $6,800 since the invasion of Ukraine and $13,000 in the last year. Still to come on Currents News. Honoring their school's namesake, students from St. Patrick Catholic Academy in Brooklyn raised their voices in celebration. And this.
I've never seen a man crying like him. And he got down on his knees and he started thanking the Lord.
On this St. Patrick's Day, a story of a miracle at the Knox Shrine to the Blessed Mother in Ireland. Continuing our celebration of Irish culture and pride this St. Patrick's Day, we thought we would take a look at a favorite pastime both here and on the Emerald Isle. Football, though this version is a little different than the one Americans know. The team at Fordham University explains.
When I run out onto the field, I feel a lot of energy. I'm ready to compete.
Gaelic football is a mixture of soccer, basketball and rugby.
We use a ball that looks like a soccer ball, but it's the rules of hurling.
There is a soccer-like goal with 2 goalposts extending out either side of it.
You need speed, hand-eye coordination, and you also need to be able to work as a team.
The team connects us to Irish culture because the GAA in Ireland has always been a really important way for Irish people to assert their culture and their community, even when they haven't been able to do so politically or socially.
It's a huge honour to be able to bring Gaelic football over to New York and to spread awareness for it and to keep that passion alive and growing every single day.
The movement in Gaelic football is really unique. There are 3 ways to move the ball. You can solo it up the field yourself. You can do what's called a hand pass, in which you kind of hit it almost like a volleyball to another one of your players. Or you can do a kick pass, which is exactly what it sounds like. You kick the ball forward to one of your teammates.
Many years ago, a lot of people had to flee Ireland and move to America in order to create a better life for themselves and just have a better life for not only themselves but also for their family.
Fordham was founded by Archbishop John Hughes, who is from Ireland, and he founded the university as a place for immigrants and children of immigrants, people who are Catholic, to have a place to be educated. So the fact that we're kind of carrying on that Irish legacy and still having a space for Irish people at Fordham to express their culture and their community is definitely a way to honor Archbishop Hughes' memory.
Fordham's Gaelic Society includes more than 220 student clubs and organizations. Students at a Catholic college in Brooklyn also using their feet to celebrate the holiday by marching in the parade. And they've done so for at least 6 decades. Students, staff, and alumni have been marching up Fifth Avenue in New York City's famous St. Patrick's Day parade for some 60 years. And on this Throwback Thursday, they posted some pictures through the years on social media. Now to an incredible story out of Ireland. We look back at the miracle at Knock, a woman who was cured of MS after visiting the Marian Shrine. Susan Gately has the story.
Marian Carroll makes dinner for her husband, a simple task, but something truly miraculous for a woman who had multiple sclerosis for 17 years.
I was completely paralysed. I had no power in both of my legs. I was really just like a baby in a pram. I had to be washed, fed, changed and moved.
I had to do everything. She was confined to bed. The last 3 years she was totally paralysed.
There was no cure. And I didn't ask for a cure because I wouldn't challenge him in that way. I knew he loved me. I mean, I had everything in life. I had a fantastic marriage and 2 wonderful children.
The day Marion Carroll went to Knock in 1989, she and her family believed she was dying. She was brought into the basilica on a stretcher and placed right under the statue of Our Lady.
But it was when my bishop came down with the Blessed Eucharist and the monstrance for the blessed of the sick, and he came in front of the stretcher and he held it up and he blessed me. It was at that time that I got this beautiful feeling, a magnificent feeling, and like a whispery breeze telling me that if the stretcher was open that I could get up and walk.
After the Mass, Marion asked to help her to open the stretcher.
But when she opened the stretcher, my 2 legs swung out and I stood up straight. I wasn't even a bit stiff after all them years. It was Sister Antonia noticed I was holding my head myself without the collar, that I was using my arms and hands, and that my speech was perfect. But when I stood up in Knock Shrine, it had nothing to do with walking or moving. Just right in front of me, I seen my own heart. And it was so full of joy and peace.
Back in Athlone, Marion had the great joy of breaking the news to Jimmy.
When we came in here to sitting round, Jimmy sat here over at the patio doors and the wheelchair was in the centre of the room. And I stood up and said, "Look, Jim, I can walk." He said, "Oh God, Mary," said, don't. And I went over and I put my arms around him. I've never seen a man crying like him. And he got down on his knees and he started thanking the Lord.
It blew me away, you know. I just couldn't believe it. To see her standing there after such a long time. And, you know, for a long time after that we thought we were dreaming, imagining, you know, that this really happened.
I've never looked back physically or spiritually since that day. And I really had a great life planned for myself, but then the Lord decided different and he gave me my ministries. I have a ministry of healing, but I cannot heal. No one can heal, only Jesus, he's the healer. That when I pray with them, I'm just giving out the prescription, but he's the doctor.
Wow. Again, that was Susan Gately reporting. In 2019, the Catholic Church in Ireland confirmed the miracle. No miracles needed here, just some adorable singers belting out some Irish tunes. You're listening to a rousing St. Patrick's Day sing-along at St. Patrick's Catholic Academy in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. The students had a lot of fun celebrating their patron saint. They even held a St. Patrick look-alike contest. The winner, 2nd grader Juliet Perry, but I think they all look pretty good. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Like the kids from St. Patrick's Catholic Academy, we also want to leave you this St. Patrick's Day in song. Here's a good tune that was played during the Mass at St. Patrick's Cathedral. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Hope to see you again next time.